So in today's video, I'm gonna be breaking down how you can be making $100,000 in a year as a media buyer by who you need to become. So if you have the technical capabilities and you already understand how to launch an advertisement and you already understand the fundamentals of being able to record, script, and edit videos, then this is gonna help you really get to the point where you go from just somebody who is a button pusher to somebody that actually is competent and dangerous in the ads manager. Because if you understand media buying is fundamentally the most highest leverage skill that you could start out with, because it directly ties to the ROI of the business that you are working with. So it's clear as day in terms of the results that you're able to drive and to produce for the business. And so rather than going into technicals, which most YouTube channels will go into, and you can find plenty of videos that will break down how you can launch ads and things like that, but I really wanted to cover things that helped me out beyond just the tactics, which is the mentality, okay? So 80% of your success is mental, 20% of it is technical, okay? And over the years of my career, I've made over $1 million in sales with my own business, helping people with media buying, teaching the skill, providing agency services, etc. And I've understood throughout this entire journey, through the ups and downs and going throughout, rebuilding, building from scratch, making a lot of money and then rebuilding all over again, that a lot of this fortitude to be able to succeed within media buying is difficult, because media buying isn't for everybody from a mental perspective. The benefits of being a media buyer is, obviously being able to work remote, being able to work from anywhere, being able to have a high pay in regards to the amount of value that you could provide to a business, right? But there's also the downside, right? Where it's inconsistent, where there's not really a sense of predictability. But the thing is, if you develop these skill sets and really hone in on these characteristics, it's going to be pretty simple and straightforward for you to succeed as a media buyer. So the first thing that I want to really hammer home here is being proactive and not reactive, okay? And so I've hired people and I've worked with plenty of business owners that react more than they are thinking about the future, right? And so one of the skill sets that I've developed over time is to have urgency and to think 5 steps ahead. You always want to be ahead of the game. You always want to have creatives ready. You always want to, plan the night before. You always want to focus on the real constraint of the business. You always want to have your marketing reports prepared in advance the day before as well. And you just want to be able to set yourself up in a way where you're not being pinged by the business owner, or you're not being pinged by your team being asked like, hey, where's the ads? Or hey, what's the report? You need to have a structure and a cadence in order for you to be able to not react to things. Obviously, there's things that will happen as a media buyer and things that happen within marketing, right? Life happens, ad accounts get shut down, ads get rejected, markets shift. Things that are outside of your control aren't necessarily there, but there are 100% things that are controllable. So being proactive by structuring my day has really helped me out, right? Just in the morning, I block out at least 4 hours for deep work. So for project management, whether that's updating the ads manager, rotating in new creatives, or scripting out new ads, I always have a 4-hour deep block where I have uninterrupted focus, right? And my life is extremely optimized around being able to be proactive, right? And so that 4 hours in the morning is for deep work, and then I have 4 hours for calls, and then 4 hours for just miscellaneous project management throughout the day. So anything that's super creative or anything that takes a lot of my energy always gets pushed to the front of my day. And then calls and things that are more low energy, low focus is scheduled for later in the evening, right? Another big thing is being emotionally neutral. I talk about this on my YouTube channel a lot, but you can't just make decisions in the ads manager or within business in general from an emotional standpoint. You can feel your emotions, but it's important for you to create space and create time for yourself to analyze what you're going to do in reaction to the inputs or the environment that, that's around you and what's happening. Okay. So that has allowed me to, have bad months where, things aren't necessarily working out for me, or if my client texts me in the middle of the night and they're super frustrated or super angry about something, it allows me to separate the anxiety or the stress that I feel in that exact moment, and allows me to respond professionally when I have the time to gather my thoughts. Some things, like, for example, today I had to change some ad copy that took 2 hours, right? But there are other things that are more important to do, like writing out scripts and making sure that, production's going along the lines, right? So it's okay to let some fires burn. That's one key lesson that I've learned over time, is just being able to prioritize your time and your energy and your tasks. Not everything's worthy and deserving of your input and your focus at that given point in time, right? And so the other thing on top of that is being able to make data-led decisions, okay? So everything that you do in the ads manager, or anything that you do when it comes to reporting to your client, you're in charge of leading strategy. You're the one in charge of driving results. Your client should not be going to you with what you should be doing, right? You want to set the tone, you want to set the pace, and you want to set the strategy by, knowing what the KPIs are, being very integral within the fundamentals of the business, knowing their AOV, knowing their gross profit margin, knowing their cost per acquisition, having their benchmark KPIs laid out, their click-through rate, their conversion rate, their add to carts, right? Like, those are things that you have to be able to map out specifically and always keep an eye on, and being able to have the ability to focus on the main constraint within the marketing and sales process, and being able to help the business owner and guide the business owner to identify that constraint and tell them, hey, we need to allocate our time and resources and energy to fixing our sales process, our landing page. We need to fix our ad creatives, whatever the constraint within the business is. You need to be able to identify that by being able to look at the data within the business and come to the table with solutions. You never want to bring up just the problems, right? So when you go to your client and you're managing the client, you want to come up to them where, hey, Mr. Customer, or hey, client, like, I identified this bottleneck. This looks like the main constraint within our sales process, and here are the 3 solutions that I have. I actually think this one would be the best one out of the 3 in order for us to make more progress and in order for us to get more profitable with our advertisements. What do you think about that? Is that something that we can implement, or is that something we can get funds for? That's how you want to approach things. You don't want your client to blow you up like, hey, we haven't had this report. Hey, like, what are we doing with the strategy? Like, in general, you're going to attract business owners that are at your caliber and at your level. But I share these with you because anyone that plays the game, and you play it at a high level, these are the characteristics that are beyond the tangibles. Because it's easy to freaking learn how to click the buttons and how to set up the advertisement. But what isn't easy is these characteristics and these character traits of being somebody that's on a team that people love working with, right? And that brings me to my next point, which is being reliable and consistent, right? So always do what you say you're going to do. Set realistic expectations. Do not just be a pushover and a yes man, right? Some people set unrealistic timelines, unrealistic deadlines. They pile a bunch of work on top of yourself, right? But you need to have an infrastructure in place, right? So I have a project manager that I fill out every single night, where at the end of my day, once I'm done with all of my work, I sit down and I plan my schedule, and I'll pull up my project manager, and I usually have this in Notion or within ClickUp, really depends on which client that I'm managing, but I'll write down all of the async tasks that they put off to me, like, hey, we need this creative done, or hey, we need to set up this pixel here, or like, hey, we got to fix this advertisement or these creatives here. Whatever request that you get, you have to stay on top of those things. You have to document it, you have to log it, and you have to be extremely organized with your workflow, right? So you should have that structure every single day where you have your non-negotiable standards and KPIs that you hit every single day. So for me, I check my ad account every single day. go through all of my accounts. I do my deep work. I do my project management at the end of the day. I check off all the lists, and then I plan my day for the next day so I know everything that I'm doing, right? So I'm very structured with my overarching routine. And so that allows me to be reliable. And so when people ask me to get things done, I can give them a timeline. And whenever you assign a project, you need to set the timeline for when things are going to be finished, and you need to be realistic. Because like if somebody comes to you with an unrealistic timeline and you have 20 other things that they've already assigned to you, you're just going to say like, hey, would love to get that done for you, but I actually have these 3 other tasks. We can actually finish it on the time that you expected, as long as you're okay with those 2 tasks getting pushed behind. If those 2 tasks aren't okay with being pushed behind, we can get it done by October 7th rather than October 1st. Is that more feasible? Okay. And then that's how you have to be able to communicate. So you're setting the pace, setting the tone, and being able to be reliable and allow that person to feel as though you're very consistent, very structured, right? And so another big thing that I want to drive home is just how I structure my life around my work and around managing my clients and around media buying in general, right? So my life is very structured, right? And I've designed my life in systems. I'm a big systems guy. I like to think in things in terms of like a holistic view and things that are closed loop. So for me, I work on being able to reduce decision fatigue, because media buying is chaotic enough. It takes a lot of mental strain, a lot of mental work, and a lot of mental capacity in order to manage all of the things. So in my personal life, my life is very simple. I wake up at the same time, I go to sleep at the same time. I wear realistically everything that's planned out for the week. All of my meals are already prepped, and all of those things that usually would take brain power, I systematized that. I made it standardized. So I don't have to ever worry about what I'm going to do for my workouts, what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to wear. I just try to remove as much friction as possible so I can stay on top of the ball. And that's the reality of things, is that it takes a lot of effort and energy to stay proactive and be in a proactive state, and to be able to think in 3rd, 4th, 5th order consequences so that you can actually think of solutions before the problems even happen, right? And so being able to structure my life in systems like that has really allowed me to get down to being able to be very consistent and being very dependable, which is an extremely important thing, especially with, you're like, I'm not these like businesses clients, or they're not my clients. I'm actually a part of their team, right? And so that's my philosophy with being a media buyer, is that even though I run an agency that does, paid media production, my goal is to be an integrated part of their team. And I have these expectations of people that are a part of my team. I live this way. I want my team to be structured. I want my team to be proactive. I want my team to be solution oriented. I want my team to think in systems. I want my team to be able to focus on constraints. I want my team to be able to think through how they want to operate their life. So to be able to think through all of these thoughts, that's extremely important, right? But beyond just the structure, being data driven and being able to have a tight cadence and being proactive, another thing that you want to understand too is just being able to have empathy, right? Because another big thing too is that humans are very emotional, myself included. And there's times where people are going to have outbursts. There's times where your clients and the people that you manage and the accounts that you manage, people are going to get very emotional. They're going to want to make emotional decisions, but it's your job to be able to frame the narrative using data, right? Not listening to the emotions, and be able to be emotionally neutral and to point out what the best calls is for the company based on data, right? Because if the CEO is having just had a bad month or just had a few mishaps had within the business, and he's all of a sudden like, hey, we need to shut down, we need to cut spend on paid ads, right? But if the paid ads have been already performing at a high level and they're getting a good return on their advertising and it has good unit economics, it makes sense for you to push back and be like, okay, hey, I get that this happened, we can do that, but I suggest that we actually are able to keep the ads going because it'll help you, rebound from whatever just happened, right? So yeah, overall, those are a lot of the characteristics that I've been really thinking through that has started to help me get into the point where the results are pretty consistent now, right? Because I've managed one of my ad clients now for the past 5 months, and I had another client that stayed for about 3 months so far, and I'm just getting my feet back into the game, right? If you go back onto my YouTube channel, I've been doing this for quite some time. Like, I used to run a coaching business teaching media buying as well. I love making these YouTube videos about it, but this skill set takes time to really be able to master, but you have to be able to master yourself. You have to be able to set your standards outside of the day-to-day inputs, right? Because you have to be consistent with doing outreach. You have to be consistent with looking at your ad accounts. You have to be consistent with being able to produce ad scripts. You have to be consistent with being able to launch ads. You have to have a rhythm and a cadence for reporting. You have to have a rhythm and a cadence for communication. These are all of the fundamentals that people don't really talk about. People always just talk about creative strategy, what's working, what's not working. But in order to even get into the game, these are the fundamentals that you have to do on a regular basis. So being able to measure things and being able to have these characteristics are going to allow you to have a lot of success moving forward, okay? So if you like videos like this and you wanna learn more about the mindset of what it takes to succeed in media buying and having this be your craft, and if you're somebody that wants to learn more about the technical aspects about media buying in and of itself, I highly implore you to subscribe to the YouTube channel and show some love. And if you like more videos like this, I'll see you in another video, but I highly suggest you check out this video here if you should become a media buyer in 2026. But if not, see you in another video. Peace.